Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone is doing good, everyone is healthy, and everyone's coping with the situation. But obviously, with everything going on in the world, we're not able to do the things we're accustomed to doing, like going and getting our hair cut. And so here I'm going to be cutting my own hair and hopefully be offering a few tips and tricks that make your home hair cutting experience a little bit better. And so I'm actually going to be doing two haircuts in this video. And so hopefully both of them are helpful to you. So this is the first cut. And this is a very, I would say, regular gentleman style haircut. It's still pretty full on the sides. It's not too short. There's not a lot of scalp exposure. And overall, just a pretty classy cut. I think would accommodate a lot of people. And even if you don't wear your hair in this way, even if you don't part it and slick it back or whatever, I think this cut really is can be used for a lot of different people in a lot of different lifestyles. And so we're going to be going through that cut. But for those who want to take it a little bit further, a little bit tighter on the sides, this is going to be the finished product at the very end. You can see we took the sides in pretty close, quite a bit of scalp exposure, and I guess you could say a fade on the side, and then still with the longer top, kind of more close and just generally more involved in this kind of haircut. And so you can see the top is left long. And speaking of that, my hair is quite a bit longer on top, and so there's going to be a few times where I have to do things just a little bit differently to accommodate my style. I'll do my best to differentiate what I'm doing and what you need to do. And so here are the things that we're going to be needing for this haircut. Now, some things are optional while other things are going to be a little bit of a necessity. And so you can see I have a clipper, a large clipper, and a smaller trimmer for detailing. Mine are a little bit fancier, but anything you have from home should be totally fine, something you got from Walmart. Then we have some scissors, comb, the guards, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also water, a little brush to clean yourself off. There I have a feather razor and thinning shears. These are not necessary to the cut. These are just things that I'm going to be using for myself to accommodate my haircut. And so other things we have are hair clips. My hair's longer, which I need to keep it out of the areas where I'm cutting, so I'm going to be using those clips to keep my hair up out of my face. And then also a mirror. There's the hand mirror, but as you can see, I'm using quite a few mirrors. I have a large mirror, I have this hand mirror, then I also have a full length mirror, and mirrors are going to be coming in handy a lot, guys, so the more mirrors the better, really. So here I'm combing my hair. I wear my hair with a part, and so if you wear your hair with a part, definitely part your hair. So for men's haircuts, you want a square shape. So as you can see, I'm putting the comb on the side of my head to show that that's the shape we're going for, and also on the top, regardless of how long your hair is on top, you want that to be a square shape as well. And so here, parting the hair, again, I'm going to show you here, we're going for a square shape, so that means anything above where my head is not touching the comb, we're not touching with the clippers. So here I'm kind of demonstrating what we're going to be doing, the kind of motion that we're going for. We're going straight up. We want the clipper to go along the head, but as soon as you feel your head rounding, that's when you want to go straight up. You don't want to follow the head shape like this, because then you're going to be cutting that way too short. So straight up, guys. And so we're starting with the number 4, and I'm starting with the number 4 because just the general rule, you can take it off but you can't put it back on. And so I would say start a little bit longer. I think a number 4 is a good spot for everybody. Anything longer than a 4 might be a little bit harder to pick up all the hair, and so I think a number 4 is good. Here I'm putting the comb down, holding that top layer of hair down, and then kind of feeding it into the clipper, and so that kind of helps create shape, and that also helps any hair that's not being cut. So here I'm going in with the number 4, and we're going straight up, guys. We are not following the round of the head. And also you want to cut just the sides right now, and so here I am sectioning off what I don't want to cut. So the top of my hair that lays over the back, I'm combing that out of the way, so definitely want to do that. You do not want to cut hair from the top of your head in this section. And so we're working the number 4 up the back. This part is definitely difficult because everything is going to be inverted, and so this will take getting used to. So take your time, guys. Do not try and rush this. If you try and rush this, that's more room for mistakes. And so generally when you take your time, everything will turn out a little bit better. So now we're going to be switching off into the right side of my head. And so we're going to be parting it as well. I don't wear a part on this side of my head, but we're going to part it so we don't cut the hair on top. So as you can see, square shape, we're parting it where it naturally wants to go. And so this is optional. I'm blow drying the wet hair on the side of my head. You don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because it's better to use clippers on dry hair. Wet hair, depending on if your clippers aren't strong enough, wet hair may kind of jam up your clippers. And also when it just comes to cutting, it's harder to see what you're cutting in wet hair. So using clippers on dry hair is much better, so that's why I did that. So here I'm working the number 4 all the way around, going straight up. That's the part I can't stress enough, guys. You need to go straight up. Do not go run the clippers over the round of your head. And so here I'm lining up the sideburns because we are done with the number 4. So if you wanted to stop right here, if you thought the number 4 worked good for you, then you can stop right there, line up your neck, line up your sideburns, and you're good to go. But here I'm going just a little bit shorter. I'm going to number 3. The number 3 is with the lever open, and I'm going right under that number 4. And so the movement here is a little bit different. Instead of going straight up, we're kind of flicking out. I'm going to demonstrate it here. You're kind of doing like this little rocking motion with your wrist. And so that's what I'm doing on the side. When I demonstrated, I exaggerated it quite a bit, and so it doesn't look like that when you're watching me cut my hair, but that's what I'm doing. It's just a little bit more subtle. So yeah, we're doing the flicking motion. That's 3.5 with the lever open, and we're going right under that number 4. Now we're closing the number 3, and so now it's no longer 3.5, it's just a regular 3. And we're going right under where we went with the 3.5. And so when you're cutting your hair as well, it's a lot about what you see, but also about what you hear. And so a lot of the times I start pulling out, flicking, doing that flicking motion when I start to hear the hair starting to get cut in the clipper blade. And so that has to do a lot with blending as well. And so now we're on the other side of my head with the number 3, starting with it open, going right underneath where we went with the number 4, working on the back, and now we're closing it, and we're going under the 3.5. Again, doing that little flicking motion. Make sure you get behind your ears. It's a little tricky to get behind the ears, and so you want to be meticulous with around the ears and the neck. On my neckline, I have a couple small cowlicks, so you'll see me go over that a couple times. So now I'm checking everything out, seeing how it looks. So as you can see there, my neck, the hair grows in different directions, so I'm running over it with the number 3 again. So don't be afraid to run over things again, guys. One pass over the clipper, generally speaking, is not going to get everything, so you want to run over the clipper a few times. So here we're going to start blending in the corners of the head with the sides of the head. So here I'm showing you that the proper way to hold your scissors is you put your ring finger through the top and then your thumb in the other one. And so this is a really easy way to blend in that longer hair into the clippered hair underneath. You just pull it down in there, and whatever's poking in through your fingers is what you cut. So there's not much there, but as I move in through the back, you're going to be able to see through my fingers what's sticking out, and whatever's sticking out, whatever's not in line with the clippered hair will be poking out, and that's what you're cutting, and you want to cut along that line. And this is a very easy way to do this. And also it's good if you have a part, because you're pulling that hair down, and so that hair will be just a little bit longer, which is better for parting. And so this is where my natural part is. This is where I part my hair when I style my hair, so that's what I'm doing. And here I'm doing on the right side. As you can see, that long tuft of hair poking in through my fingers, and then underneath that you can see where the shorter hair begins. And so you're just connecting the dots, guys. It's really not that difficult. And so here again you can see any hair that's not along that straight line from the clippered area. So again, I'm grabbing it, not much there, but you'll be able to see it definitely. And if you don't see it, then do not cut. Just keep on combing it until you can see it. You can see the hair that's not following the line that you created. If you just cannot see it, then don't cut it. So what we did here was we cut the right side of the back and the left side of the back. So now we're working on the center back. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this part was very difficult. So if you have somebody in the house that's willing to help you, I would definitely do that. You're just pulling the hair in the middle back straight out, and you're again following that line that you can see from the clippered hair. And so we took care of that, and now we're edging up the hairline. Now I did edge up my hairline a couple days prior to this, so it's not too bad, but here I'm just demonstrating what you would do. You want to be very gentle. And so that's it, guys. That's the first haircut done. That's a number 4 faded down to a 3, and we trimmed the sides, that way the longer hair on top fits in with that. And I think this haircut fits a lot of people, but again, if you're wanting to go shorter, then that's what we're doing here. So I'm grabbing my number 2 and I'm opening it, the lever open, so now it's a 2.5, and I'm going in under what we did with that 3. And so if you're accustomed to getting a number 2 on the sides from when you visit your barber or stylist, then this is where you want to go in with that 2 right underneath. Because generally when you get a haircut from a barber, he's not doing strictly a number 2 on the sides. He's definitely doing a number 2 like around the temple area, around the ears and the back, but then he's graduating that up so that way it blends into whatever hair you have on top. And so if you want a number 2 on the sides, that's a pretty regular haircut and something that a lot of guys go for. You don't want to just go in with a number 2, you want to go in with a number 3 or number 4, and then do the 2 a little bit lower around the temple area. And so that's what I'm doing here. Now I'm doing the right side of my head, the number 2 open, going underneath where we went with 3. And here I'm going down because I feel like that area is a little bit bulky. And so that's something you can do if you feel like maybe the corners are sticking out a little bit too far. Go with the grain, go put the clipper down, and you're not really cutting length, you're cutting more weight that's sticking out. So I'm working the number 2 closed, doing it along the back. So now we're moving on to the 1.5. If you don't have a 1.5, then you can use the 1 guard and then open it. But generally, the 1.5 guard is a little bit longer than the 1 open. And so I want to be as careful as I can with the graduation, so I'm going ahead and using that 1.5 open first. So 1.5 open, doing that little flicking motion under where we went with the 2. If you go too high, you're going to start making lines. And lines, when you're cutting someone else's hair, lines can be very helpful when you put in a line and then you can kind of see the graduation forming. But when you're cutting on yourself, removing lines might be a little too difficult. And so this way of cutting, you're not making lines, you're just blending, and you don't have to worry about getting out lines. But speaking of lines, as you can see, there's quite a bit of a weight line right there on my head. And so what I'm doing is I went back with the number 2 and I'm working on that area that's a little bit dark. It looks like a dark, harsh line. And so there I am going with the 2, working that out. So right here the 2 is open. flicking out. And then I want to say I even close it at a point. So I worked on that line, and now I'm going in with the number 1 guard, and then I'm opening it, going underneath the 1.5 closed. I'm doing the same thing on the other side. And again, guys, you want to take your time with this. You don't want to rush. When you're working with shorter lengths, like even the number 2 and number 1, or if you're doing like skin, then you want to take your time. And so here I'm going in with the 1 halfway open, and I'm kind of just going for dark spots. But I think at this point I'm feeling like the blend, the fade is coming together, and so I'm done with the clippers on the side. So now we're going to be moving on to the top. So at this point we're going to be focusing on that hair that's overhanging onto the clippered short sides. And so this is a nice little tip for those of you that maybe don't want to cut the top of your hair but don't like that part hanging over. So what we're going to do is we're going to part from that corner box in your hairline and do a diagonal line. And so we're separating the hair that's actually at the top of your head and also like your bangs. You're cutting that out, and now you're just going to be working on this little corner that goes in to the clippered sides. And so we're doing a diagonal back section, and so you see the short hair and the long hair hanging over. So you want to cut that part off. Doing that again. See a little bit there. So if you're the type of guy that likes long hair on top and short hair on the sides, that's what you want. You want the hair on top to be long. You don't need this hair on the corners to be long. And so that's weight that you just don't really need unless you're going for that. But generally, if you want something to lay really well, this helps. Like as you can see there, the hair, even though it's still overhanging in the front, the hair right above the ear is not. It's blended in, and so it makes combing your hair back flow really, really well. So that's a really good tip for those who are having issues with their side part area. Now here I'm going in with the feather razor. This is one of those steps where it's more so for me and what I'm going for. This is definitely not necessary for anybody to really try and copy, but this is just me being very OCD about how it's turning out. So here I'm going in with the blending shears, and I'm just kind of snipping away at any bits that are a little too heavy and bits that are kind of not flowing with the shape. Again, those 2 steps right there are not necessary for your home haircut. And so now we're going to be working on the top. So here we're going to look at a very simple way to cut the top of your hair. This is going to be good if your hair is like finger length or maybe even 1 to 3 inches long on top. You're going to make a section and pull the hair straight up and then make your cut. You decide how long you want your hair to be here. And then once you make that cut, you're going to move back, and then you're going to push it down with the comb and look for that line. If you do not see the line, then do not cut. You want your hair to be as even as possible. And so again, here pulling it straight up, not forward, not back, straight up, and then you're going to follow that through the whole top of your head. Now I'm not going to cut my hair like this because my hair is longer, and so it's harder to be precise with that kind of cutting style. And so here I'm going to be parting my hair and pretty much having a strip of hair down the center of my head, and this is I'm going to be setting my guideline. Now admittedly guys, I was having quite a bit of hard time doing this myself. It's hard to get the right angle, it's hard to be precise when doing it yourself, and so just kind of bear with me. So I cut that strip down the whole middle of my head. Now I'm working at the back. And so now, because we cut the middle strip to the length we want, when we pull up the horizontal sections, we see the line from the middle section in with the horizontal. And so there you can see the hair that's sticking up, but you can also see the straight line we created. And so that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing here. I'm point cutting. That's just something I prefer in my haircut. Do not try point cutting, I would say, because it's very easy to cut your fingers when you're doing that. And so for you guys, just cut straight across. So here I'm point cutting. I'm working on the back. I'm working from the back, going straight towards the front. Again, having just slight difficulty. It's hard to do it yourself. So you can see every time I pull up a section, you can see hair that's not following the line we're creating. And so we're working forward, cutting those bits that are not following the guideline. There you see again the hair sticking out. Straight lines are your friend. So now I'm working on my bangs, combing out the hair that I don't want to cut. And so the bangs, the front of your hair, generally speaking, it's best to have that part be the longest. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping the front of my hair long. And so here, guys, I'm working back to make sure I made everything straight. And so when I did this, I saw that I didn't cut things exactly to the guide, and so now I'm reworking the parts that I missed. So this is a good example of why it's good to go back and check your work, just in case you made a mistake. When you go back and check your work, you can make everything as perfect as you want. Here, cutting, cross-checking, and so now that was the left side of my head. And so after I clean up that bit, we are moving on to the right side of my head. So again, starting from the back, not a lot there. So you can see that little arrow kind of sticking up. So if you see that, little peaks and valleys, little arrows, when you pick up the hair, you want to cut that off because you want straight lines. So there you go. Now we're in the middle. There we can see, not a straight line, so we're point cutting into that. So now I'm cutting the section right behind my bangs. And in a second, I'm going to be pulling up the hair from the side like that. So you can see there the angle that we're creating. It's shorter in the back, longer in the front. So when you pull it up from the side, it's like a sloping angle. So here, after I finish cutting the front, I'm going to start running and doing cross-checking. And so you'll see a better angle of what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's gradually getting shorter in the back. Now the back of my head is pretty dense with hair, so I'm going to be chipping in at that quite a bit as we're cross-checking rather. And again, breaking that up back there, it's a little too thick. And so if you notice, I actually missed some hair that should have been cut, but when I come in with the cross-check, pulling it in from the side, I see it and I cut it. So that's why it's good to double check your work, cross check. That means combing in the hair from the side and then combing your hair in through the front, and you'll be able to see any mistakes you didn't get. This more so is specific for my haircut, and just make sure the bangs are cut at the right angle. So here it is, guys. This is the finished cut. This is the faded sides. This is the trim top, blending the long top into the short sides. You know, honestly, is it as good as what my barber would do? Is it as good as what your stylist would do? You know, probably not. But I was pretty satisfied with the way everything turned out. And, you know, I really hope it was helpful to anybody who's trying to do this at home, whether you do the longer version or this short faded version. If you have a question, please feel free to send me a message or leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So, alright guys, I hope everyone is safe and healthy. Bye.